thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Past the Wire TV. I am Jim Gazzali, joined by the leading rider down at Aqueduct right now, Dylan Davis. Dylan, thanks for joining us here on Past the Wire and spending a little time with us today.
Hi, Jim. Yeah, thanks for having me on here.
Awesome. So, I think whoever knows you knows that you come from a long line of racing in your family. Let's start there. I think that's, probably a fairly interesting bit of backstory and history for you. Just talk a little bit about what it was like kind of growing up. Your dad is a very accomplished rider as well. And just talk about that as you're kind of growing and getting older and kind of being around the races from such a young age.
Yeah, so my father raced in New York for over 20 years through the 1980s to early 2000s. Won over 3,000 races and some plenty of stake races, grade ones, and very successful. So growing up with him, we had the Aqueduct, Belmont circuit, and Saratoga most of the time. And I would go to the racetracks, watch him ride, and just have fun out there. But I didn't really have a lot of interest early on. I was just being a kid in my childhood and just going through school and never had much interest of being a jockey. So that determined later on when I was in the senior year of high school that I wanted to do what my father did, and he was 100% behind my back.
So it sounds like there wasn't a ton of pressure on you then to be a jockey or be involved in racing at all.
No, yeah. So Dad was he's a great father for us. He always wanted the best for us. So was my mother. They were 100% behind us what we wanted to do, and for whatever sport we were focused on. And I was focused on motocross and dirt bike racing and all that, and wrestling and all these other things. And it determined that it was very difficult to become professional in motocross racing. So my next best thing was to become a jockey because my father was.
Now that you've been doing it for several years, you feel like there's a bit of competition there now, like trying to kind of surpass some of your father's accomplishments, or you feel like you're kind of on your own journey here?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I feel like I'm on my own journey. There's people that would say that I'm better than my father, but I don't like to think that. I always think of my father as a great mentor, and if I get there to beat his accomplishments, then that's great. But I'm kind of doing it in my own way and to see what I can do.
Yeah. And you have other siblings that ride too. Talk about that and what that's like, kind of competing against your family directly, sometimes in the same race. What's kind of unique about that in your opinion?
Yeah, it's very unique. You don't see it very often, a family of three riding, brothers and sisters. So I have two sisters that are riding currently at Aqueduct with me, Jacqueline Davis and Katie Davis. And sometimes we match up in races where we're all in together. Also, my sister's married to Trevor McCarthy, so it's another brother-in-law to add to the family. So sometimes we have four of us in a race all together, and it gets very competitive. We all know that we are riding our best out there and trying to do the best for our trainers and owners. And at the same time, I want to beat my sisters or my brother-in-law just as much as everybody else out there. But it's fair competition, and we're enjoying it. We want to beat each other, but at the same time, we come back home, we're having Thanksgiving dinner or we're having dinners back at the house and enjoying us as a family.
Yeah. A lot of times you see a lot of, talk and maybe criticism is maybe the right word of, a perceived sort of conflict of interest when, you've got family all riding in the same race together. How do you kind of navigate that and deal with that sort of world and that, perhaps a perception when you have multiple family members in the same race?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, if we were to have any conflicts, we have many officials that are always overwatching our rides and maybe would say suspicion, but we're not. I was great. I was raised like as my father to do our best out there and ride the hardest for our trainer and owner. That's our team, our outfit, and always put in our best efforts. So I think it's the other way around where because my sisters are in the race or my brother-in-law is in there, I want to beat them so bad that I don't even want to finish last. If I am fighting for last place, I want to beat them to not finish last.
There's, for horse players on social media, which is, another sort of wild world, I guess. There's been a lot of criticism lately of the stewards, the officials, the judges, and just being kind of inconsistent in the horse players' eyes. How do you see that as a rider, with the stewards? In your opinion, are they consistent from what you can tell in your trips around the racetrack?
Another good question. Yeah. So I try to maintain a fine line where what we can get away with and what we can't. And sometimes I feel like it could be personalized or individualized between riders at times or certain races. But I know that what I need to do for the stewards for them to be happy with my riding, and you never want to jeopardize a rider's life or do anything like that. But you're doing the best you can with how to get to the wire first and which ways you need to do that. I've seen races where my opinion that it could have went other directions, but I'm not an official in that, and I'm not in that position to make decisions like that. So that's their point of view, and then they get backed up by the state, and they have to make the best decision possible. There's many stewards up there. There's four up there, and they all have to agree upon a decision to come out with the best outcome.
Obviously you have a personal relationship with your sisters and Trevor, obviously. What about the other riders in New York and elsewhere that you've ridden consistently? You find that there's kind of like a little bit of a clique, if you will, amongst certain riders, and how does that maybe translate from the jockey's room out onto the race course?
Yeah, so just like everywhere, there could be people that get along better with others. The younger riders, say with younger riders, older riders get along because they've been riding longer with each other. I don't know about translating to the track because we're all trying to ride our best race out there because we're making our own money for our own families. So we're always trying to do our best out there. And there are, you get better time with certain others, and just that's the way it is.
So you're at the top of the winter meet standings at Aqueduct right now. I believe you won the winter riding title last year as well, didn't you?
I think the previous year, 22.
Okay. So would you say that it's more challenging and difficult to make it to the top of the rider standings in New York, or is it more difficult once you get to the top to stay at the top?
I think it's both. It's very difficult to get there because there's a lot of other riders that want to get there. I put a lot of work and time with my agent now, Mike Migliori, day in and day out there. He's a great manager and people's person, and he also helps me, keep the relationships going through trainers and owners and how to manage that. And in my point, trying to manage horses that we have. But once we get to closer to the top end, you have those certain group of riders, top three or top four that are always circulating. I've been in the top four, top five, almost every year I've been at Aqueduct, and that's great. I'm very fortunate for that. And then some riders have their year or their time, and then it would be my next time for the next following year. And just always doing my best and managing the horses that I have and just riding my best and showing the owners that I'm always putting 100% out there.
Riding in the winter at Aqueduct is definitely unique. Like I've always been curious, you're moving around at 35, 40 miles an hour and 10, 20 degree weather. What do you wear under your silks? And just how cold does it actually feel when you're going around there for upwards of a minute and a half sometimes?
Yeah, so a lot of riders go down south because they can't handle it. It's too cold for them. They're not used to the temperatures, and they're not comfortable. So they go where it's comfortable for them. But I'm a New York bred, so I'm born and raised here. I know how to handle it. So we don't get much layers to wear because we have to watch our weight with each race. So I try to get the fittest, slimmest, like Under Armour fitted long sleeves and leggings, and that's pretty much what you're gonna get. Even if my body gets cold, I need to make sure I feel my hands and my feet because those are the most important things out there. And there's a lot of other things. That track, Aqueduct, is raised up higher than the surroundings. There's not much trees, and you get a lot of wind, and it can get very cold at times. But you just got to be focused on what you have to do at task and ride the race, and knowing that you're going to get warm in a couple minutes going back to the jocks room.
Yeah. What about I thought this was like a COVID thing when I first started seeing like the face shields, and I thought that was like some sort of COVID regulation, but I still see a lot of riders wearing it. Is that just to protect their goggles from more mud and kickback?
Yeah, so riders will use the visor because it can handle more kickback, but most importantly, they're using it like during the winter time because of the cold temperatures. It hardens the track up and almost balls up, and it comes back as, well, not rocks, but bald dirt rocks, and it's harder for them to break away, and the kickback gets very rough. So that protects your whole face from that if it could hurt you a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I always was curious because I see them becoming seemingly more popular. I've really only seen it at Aqueduct, so I was curious, but that makes sense.
I tried it a few times, and it just, for some reason, it does help with the kickback, but my breathing is not. It fogs up, and it fogs my goggles up, and it gets in the way. It brings in hot air. I just can't. I need that cool air to keep me, cooler while I'm riding.
Yeah. So it seems like you do quite well down at Aqueduct. Like I said, leading rider so far in 2024. There, you won the winter meet there a couple of years ago. When things sort of shift up north here to Saratoga in the summer, how do you work to maintain that momentum into the summer at like let's be honest, a much more competitive meet with higher quality horses, a more competitive jockey colony? How do you maintain everything that you build during the winter and spring and bring it up here in the summer?
Yeah, so it's very difficult because more successful riders come up, more horses come up with the horses that they've been riding, higher quality horses, and my stock, as well. It could be tough for them to transfer to Saratoga, but what I would do is just keep working in the morning and showing my face out there and trying to keep all the horses that I've been riding and hope for some loyal owners or trainers to continue to ride me on those horses, because sometimes you will lose some of the mounts that you've been riding just because of some favoritism. That's just the way it goes. And hoping that the ones that I keep are competitive in their spots that they're running in, and then after that, just making sure I get the job done. It's just making it's a little more difficult during Saratoga, but with the bigger fields and everything, you got to get lucky too.
What's your preparation like on a day-to-day basis? What do you do to maintain weight, either from nutrition and exercise standpoint, and How does that sort of carry over into a day of racing where, you're looking at the racing form and trying to figure out, how to ride each race? Just kind of take us through what a day in the life of Dylan Davis looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So during like a race day, it's only 3 days a week now. Friday we'll start with the wake up. It depends on how many workers I have. Most of the time, it's very light during the winter because of the track conditions. Track won't be good until maybe 7:45 when it opens up. So I'll probably wake up maybe an hour before, around 6 to 6:30. Get going a little bit, stretch, and get my coffee. I love the coffee in the morning. And then get out there. I use the morning workouts as something to warm up with for the races. So I always have my agent. Most of the time, he'll have workouts for me before the races to get going, get the motions, and get out there. And then after that, if I have time to get back home and change, I'll do that. But heading over to the jocks room and getting that program and reading all the form and doing the video replays and studying and handicapping, my own handicapping, what where speed is and where I need to be and how's this horse run and where's his best numbers coming from, what kind of track surface is he, inside, outside. There's many things to go with that, and watching the race by race, watching how the track's playing and adjusting the program again as well. They have some pull-up bars and some stretching again in the jocks room where I'll continue to warm up or stretch in between races and keep my body going and just continuing to watch races and it's a nonstop thing. And after the races are over with, win or lose, it's a good day. And I have my wife and 2 kids at home waiting for me and having dinner and spending time with them.
I saw something on social media. I think it was Twitter, going through like a jockey's exercise routine, and they were doing some, pretty unique exercises, where to basically mimic being on the back of a horse. You find yourself kind of training in that similar way where you're trying to mimic with whether it be weights or exercise bands or medicine balls, just kind of being in the irons as you're trying to build strength in that regard?
Not so much. My weight is very manageable. I'm at like 110 to 12, and it's a natural thing. And my diet is very good, so I'm very blessed to have meals throughout the day. As far as like workouts, I'll stick to some running or free weights. I don't really mess with weights too much. My father told me to not mess with weights because if I build too much muscle, then it will cause me to watch my weight more day to day, and love the stress-free life of that. So, so we're talking like push-ups, sit-ups, lunge jumps, all these leg raises, crunches, all the basic stuff, and just to keep fit. And my 2 kids, they keep me busy all day. They got that jockey energy, so I'm never really sitting down too much. We're doing activities. We love to play golf, and we got an indoor simulator that I mess around with a lot. And just the kids, they keep me busy very much. But, riding almost 8 or 9 every day, plus on top of the morning workouts, it's just a lot for me. And you just have to throw in some recovery days.
Yeah. All right. So what I want to do, you just kind of touched on this, in your own personal handicapping and just kind of trying to figure out where to place your horse and, where their best figures are going to come from. I want to watch this race from yesterday.
Okay.
This was race 7. And I just want to see just kind of your thoughts on this this entire race. I think you were on the 6 here.
Yes. Yeah. So just wanted to break well. They added blinkers to him, the Chris Englehart team, and thought that he would want to be a little more closer. Still, broke him well, but he just had no interest on wanting to be forward. So, rushing a horse too much early will give up his finishing run late. So just trying to tuck him in, save some ground. That yesterday the rail has been great because of the sealed track the previous day. So just keeping him to task here, riding the rail as long as I can. And he started to pick up a little bit here around the quarter pole, really biding my time. They were really going too fast early. So here I'm restrained up, and I saw a wall of horses, so I would have to angle out here to give him a nice free run. He actually was lugging in with me, giving me a little bit of trouble. But once he got in clear, he straightened up with the urge of the left to hand. After that, he's cleared here. I put into the hand ride, and he really leveled off and was able to. We got lucky. He got that last jump in there at the wire, and everything worked out perfect.
So, the rail was pretty good and has been pretty good for the last couple of days at Aqueduct. I imagine every rider knows that. So why?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
That's up to every rider's own opinions. You could watch the first race. The best horse could win on the lead and on the front, but it could not necessarily be that. There's a lot of ways, like, was he a speed horse himself? Does he naturally be on the lead? And then you can see you got to go by a couple races. You're really going to know how the track bias is when you get a good quality race where, like a starter or allowance race. Then you're going to really know how the track is playing. Because if you go off of like a maiden 25, how the track is playing, because there's just a poor field.
Yeah. So let's look at this other one from yesterday. This was Uncle Marty.
I love this ride.
Yeah. So explain this one, because this, again, I believe you're on the 6, and you get right over to as close to the rail as you could going into this first turn.
Yeah, so Mike Maker team, great job. They give me free instructions, no instructions, ride my race, told them my thoughts, wanted to get to the rail as soon as I could, just because the rail has been playing great. Loved where I was at. I was right behind my brother-in-law, Trevor, here. My horse actually was losing his footing there. You could see his head drop a couple times. He's just trying to figure out the ground. And with that, I never wanted to ask him to go faster. I just wanted him to figure it out. I kind of dropped my hands. And me tucking behind Trevor gave him a little bit of a target so he could get his breathing going and get focused and watch the ground and not so worried about so much about what's in front of him or behind him. So then just riding the rail here as long as I can. I really just wanted to wait on him because the previous rider really rushed him too early. So I was waiting and biding my time here. A lot of the riders are starting to move already, which I thought was too early. Still biding my time behind Trevor here. Everyone's pretty much moving now, and I'm just sitting in my spot. I wanted to be the last one to make a run in this race just because of the way the race played out. Still following Trevor, covering him up. He starts riding. I see that he doesn't have as much horse now, so my horse is starting to pick up the bridle. Gonna have to go around him, and I stayed and ducked right back down into the rail. I didn't want to get off that rail. Come back down inside, and that last eighth of mile, I really got into him. I asked him for everything here, and he just kept responding. And the track is real tiring. You can see the other horses are off the rail, and they used a lot from the half mile pole to the eighth pole, and I was able to make that last run.
Kind of biding your time and being patient and waiting to make that final run. Obviously, it sounds like you had kind of handicapped that on your own, given this horse's prior race. But does the way the rail was playing and that ground saving trip that you were on, does that allow you to wait a little bit longer than you otherwise would have? Just kind of explain that sort of tactical approach to that specific race that we just watched.
Yeah, sure. So that's the thing is those two riders up front. It was Cancel and Kendrick. Kendrick was on the favorite there on the outside for Pletcher. They were off the rail the whole backside, and maybe 3 path, 4 path on. And I thought because of the rail, that's my personal opinion as a rider, that was the best spot to be. And you could see that they thought otherwise. So they were off. And being, in my opinion, I thought they were against the grain there. And especially moving at the half-mile pole, which was even more beneficial for me because they were off the rail. It was like a win-win situation because I knew that later on that they would be or should be getting tired. And me riding the rail, I was in the best spot I needed to be, and then going back down to the rail again, passing the tiring rival helped me as well. And that's the thing is you can handicap a race so much and think about the layout where people need to be. You also have the trainers and riders trying to change certain tactics of horses or track bias of horses. So even in a race, you always are analyzing the situation as a rider and trying to think of, okay, this is not what I thought was going to happen. Now I have to take it into my own hands and try to ride a race that I think is going to be the best race at that time or situation.
Yeah. How many plans do you go into a race with? You got plan A, B, C, D, and E, and
yeah, I mean, I try to not make it too complicated because you just be thinking about all these situations or scenarios. It'll get confusing. So you'll have like maybe 2 or 3 ideas in plan. And after that, you're going to talk to the trainer or owner that also has a plan in their mind or what they need to do. And they give their thoughts, and then I give my thoughts as well. And they will kind of agree on like we have to come to terms and agree on a certain plan that comes to mind. And after that, I mean, the horse has to do what we're thinking. And that's not always the case because they have a mind of their own. They could stumble, they could get out, they could get in. Maybe they don't like kickback. And all these situations, a rider sends a little more than normal. And then it creates different scenarios. And other riders react to all these different situations. So you're always like each eighth of mile when I'm riding a race and I'm thinking of all these things. What is it going to do for me if I do something now? Is it going to help me?
well,
There we go. Yeah.
you're
Adrian was yeah. So what I'm doing is what am I thinking about? If I make a decision now, say at the half-mile pole, is it going to help me down the lane, or is the at the 5/8 pole, eighth of mile out of the gate? Is this position going to help me going to be where I need to be at the 8th pole? There's guys that make moves early. Sometimes you don't want to go to the lead because that rider always lets that horse go at the 3/8 pole. You're better off sitting back a little bit. And all these situations, or I have to be on the lead. Horses that are one-dimensional. There's many things to go on to it.
Yeah, it sounds like there's many races within the race that you're kind of adapting to and adjusting to as you're going around. Just a couple of more questions around that. How much does, obviously handicapping the horse that you're on and the other horses in the race, but how does kind of handicapping the other riders play into your strategy? You just mentioned, you notice some riders are going to go at the 3/8 pole, or they might go out to the front or whatever. How does that all kind of play into your overall handicap and strategy of a given race?
Oh, it's plenty. A horse that maybe you could show like a few lengths off the lead, but you could see a rider change to a speed rider. Also, added blinkers. There's equipment changes that you could see. I'm always throwing that into my handicapping. It's really based off. The first thing I'll look at is where's the pace of the race? How fast is the race going to go the first quarter, or where off? And then you kind of go, and then you pull back and you kind of visualize everything else, because of a slow pace, maybe some riders will want to go. And there's many things. Trainers, you handicap the trainers. I've ridden for pretty much every trainer on the backside. I know how they like things and what they do, why they make changes. and how they react in 2 turns or sprints, and riding with all these riders for a handful of years already. I know all their tactics, what they do if they're outside, what they do if they're inside. 2 turns, you got to keep that in your head. I don't write it down, but I have them all memorized. Like, I can mess with riders, do these certain things. If I do something, it's like a trial and error. If I do something to them, how are they going to react? Are they going to start going? How much horse are they going to use? Are they going to take back? Do they prefer outside? Do they like to wait on the inside? Are they a patient rider? How do they handle riding favorites? There's so many things involved. Even in big money races, I see riders change all the time. When it comes to the big money, grade 1s, 2s, 3s, it's a rider that you don't ever see in an average day. And that's where, your professionalism comes in with experience. You try to maintain your composure, because if you get too anxious or nervous, you tend to make bad decisions or worse decisions, and then it hurts you in the long run. So you always have to keep that composure as well.
I'm going to put you on the spot here with a tough question. If some of the other riders in the jocks room were handicapping you going into a race, what do you think they would pick up on as some of your tendencies and what you do in certain situations?
I feel like if you were to ask maybe all the riders, they would probably say I'm a patient rider, a relaxed rider, almost a last move kind of rider. It's just my style. I like is to let the horse get where they're comfortable in stride, and then after that, I'm like almost in a zone. I'm in a race, like in myself. It's hard to explain, but I'm focused on my own horse. So if I get a horse that breaks on the lead, and then he sets pace, and then a couple riders want to go, but I'm very comfortable with my horse, I'll let those 2 guys go, and then I'll be happy with 3rd or 4th sitting there and just making my run later down the lane.
One thing that horse players, especially the ones that focus on New York, like to talk about, or even complain about, and maybe this is another question where I'm putting you on the spot, especially on turf in New York. The times, the paces just seem to be a little bit slower than they are on other racing circuits. Why do you think that might be? We see like 25, 50 for quarter and half mile splits in New York, and maybe in Florida or California, they're a couple of seconds faster.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So now you're talking about the regions. First off, we talk about the surface. So if you're talking about Gulfstream or California, their turf course is a lot tighter. Their grass is actually cut like, a half an inch to an inch. And then you're talking about up here, they need more roots, so the grass is a lot longer. And then you can go off the riding colony. I would say New York is more of a one run kind of run. They like to get position, slow down the pace, save your horse, and then let them run the last quarter. Other like Gulfstream or California, Santa Anita, they like to use a lot more horse early, because because of the tighter course, speed is more favoring, and that's why those courses are ridden like that.
Do you find that there's any sort of advantage or disadvantage to riding one style or another, using the horse early versus getting position early?
That really depends on the race and what horse you're riding. If you need to do those things, then I definitely would favor, if you need to be on the lead, then you really have to come out running. And if you need to sit off the pace, then you just sit off the pace.
Yeah. I was always interested in, hearing from, somebody with direct experience on,
Sure.
why the New York turf racing, so they say, is a lot slower than it is elsewhere. But,
that's the way the riders are riding the course.
Yeah. What have been some, big races and race memories for you over your career so far that, really stick out in your mind as, either a good accomplishment or, perhaps a race that you wish you could do over again?
I don't really look at so much the do-overs because there's always another day for racing. So you always got to keep looking forward. You have to learn from your mistakes. But the first one that comes to mind is Pat on the Back with Jeremiah Englehart, uh, because he was my first real good stake horse and New York bred. I was coming onto the scene for New York, and I caught on to him as a 2-year-old, and he was the leading New York bred boys division throughout his whole career. Won plenty of stakes on him, and I thought that was really my gateway to New York racing and to show that the trainers and owners that I could ride at the big stage. The next one would be Munta Makina for my first grade one. I did have to go out of town. I won in Canada for my first grade one, the EP Taylor. That was very exciting for me because I was getting into a good outfit, Christophe Clement, and he gave me my first real great opportunity to win to ride a grade one and also win.
I heard from a friend that you're a big car guy.
My father is, and we're working on. He got me a car. Every Saratoga, we've been putting parts into it. We got a '55 Chevy Bel Air. We're working together. But my dad has all the car collections upstate. But I love cars though.
So would you go with a Camaro or a Trans Am?
Camaro, yeah.
How much time do you have, spare in the summer to work on cars? I figure you're probably pretty busy.
Yeah, no, not many. So it's 5 days a week up there. Last year, I stayed at my parents' place. I got an RV and for my kids, so they could stay and see my parents every day and play. My dad has a 70-acre farm, and we have like dirt bikes and 4-wheelers, and we're always busy every day. And I'm happy that I'm there. So then the free time I got, it's not many, maybe one day a week that we could work on this car, and the other day I'm spending with my family or trying to play some golf.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Dylan, this was a great conversation. Really appreciate your time, and always good to see you on Past the Wire.
Thanks, Jim. That was great.
Nobody does it better.